Seriously, how can we talk about a Japanese knife without having some sushi for lunch? Carry out is never as good as eating in the restaurant. However, it'll have to do. Okay, welcome back, guys. Well, I must say that was a hefty lunch. A little too much. I don't know if I should go take a nap or do this video. Anyway, let's try to do the video. First, what I want to tell you guys is that by no means am I some kind of an expert on Japanese blades or their history, what have you. Whatever I talk about on this table talk review, if you'd like, is what I've learned from researching on the internet. Now, this particular knife over here was given to me by Richard, a very good friend of mine. We met about a year ago, and he purchased a couple of anoraks, and he was pretty happy, whatever, and to show his appreciation, his gratitude, whatever, he gave me this knife along with another knife that he had given me. So first and foremost, I want to thank you, Richard, for this fine blade. And I did look it up on the internet and got a little bit of information, and this is why I would like to talk about this blade to all our friends here on Boreal Bushcraft Canada, to give them a little bit of insight, because from my understanding and from what I've read, the Japanese have been making blades for thousands of years. However, in our bushcraft community, you don't really hear about them, and I must say that they're fine blades. They're made of special materials that we can't find here in the West, or at least, you know, materials that are readily available here in the West. And you know, it takes time to make these blades, and they are not cheap by any means. So let's get on with it. I'm gonna approach the camera a bit so you can get a better look at this baby over here, and we'll go on with a little talk about this knife. Stay with me. Okay, let's start with the sheath. It's a 100% leather sheath. What do I think about this sheath? I don't know. I'm pretty sure that there's better ones available out there. However, you know, you don't really purchase a knife because of the sheath. The sheath is just a plus, if you'd like. For this kind of quality knife, I'm sure that there's a better sheath that will cradle this baby in, you know. But anyway, we're not here to talk about the sheath. We're here to talk a bit about the knife. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so let's start with, you know, talking a little bit about the maker, where this knife originates from, and some of the materials that are, you know, that this knife is comprised of. First and foremost, let's go ahead and talk about the blacksmith. The blacksmith, his name is Hotta-san, okay, and he's from the region of Tsoa, which is in the it's one of the smaller Japanese islands in the area of Shikoku, okay. And all this experience that this maker has been passed down by his father, okay, who was a renowned blacksmith, okay, and he was looked upon as a master, and his work was amazing, and like the son stood by his side, and they were making knives, and all the you know, the experience that the old man had, he passed it down to this gentleman here who's making these knives now. And you have to understand that this knife here, it's all hand forged, okay, without what are they called again? Without a die. Like, these are hand forged. Some of these knives that you get today, they have what they call open dies, where it's like a little form on the side of the hammer, and when the metal is taken out of the oven and placed into the in the hammer, where it just pounds on the metal to create you know, the shape and to bring those metals together, to marry the metals, I guess, whatever. Next to them, there's a little die, okay? And what they do, they just put the knife, the material, the rod in the die, and they try to, you know, shape it in the shape of the die. Well, this thing here is not made like that. It is completely independent from dies. There's no dies whatsoever. Okay, and it's made out of Yasuka blue steel. All right, the handle is made of Japanese white oak, and this oak differs from the one that we get over here in the West. This one here is a little less porous and is denser than the oak from here, from North America, from the West. You'll also notice that there's insignia. There's writing over here, Japanese writing. I don't know what it means, whatever. But I have to say, it's a beefy knife, and it's probably one of the most balanced knife that I've ever put in my hands. I mean, this thing is like crazy. Look how balanced it is. I mean, it doesn't sway from one end to the other. It's perfectly balanced. There's no hot spots whatsoever. Okay, and it's a beautiful knife, and unfortunately we don't talk too much about these knives here in North America, and I think that we're missing out, guys. So you know, you'll also notice that there's a what they call a blood groove over here, and I don't know, like in knives it's called a blood groove, and if you're talking about swords or any knife that's longer than 2 feet, they use the term fuller. Now, there's a lot of myths and controversy as to the purpose of this groove that you see on the knife, on the blade. You'll see it quite often on bayonets, okay, and swords. And some say that it's put there to release the tension when you're withdrawing the knife from a stab. Okay, because apparently what happens when you're stabbing, the muscle tissue just like wraps around the blade, and it kind of makes it hard to come out. But by having this little groove, this blood groove over here, or fuller if you'd like, it releases the tension, therefore making it a little easier to draw out. Is it true or false? I wouldn't be able to tell you. There's a lot of controversy, like I said, with regards to these grooves. However, it does strengthen the blade, and well, it does strengthen the blade and somewhat, you know, remove some of the weight on it, right? Because you are removing material. But like I said, you'll see that quite often on bayonets, and some hunting knives have this blood groove there. So is it an advantage? They say that it's an advantage when you see that in swords, but it's evident that and it's debatable if its worthiness in a knife under 2 feet, if you will. The overall length is 27 centimeters from tip to the back of the handle. The blade length is 15 centimeters over here. The thickness of the blade at the spine is 0.6 millimeters. And if you notice, the top of the blade over here on the spine, let me come a little closer so you can see. You see, it's not flat. It doesn't have a 90 degree. It comes to a point. I don't know if you can see that. You see what I'm talking about? It's not 90 degree. Comes to comes like on a point. Full finger guard. Okay. It's got 2 pins, and this is not a full tang. The tang comes out, I would say, about halfway, and it's about half the thickness, the width of the knife. So I don't know if you would call this a rat tang or a semi-rat tang, etc. I wouldn't be able to tell you. But yeah, beautiful looking knife, beefy, sharp. It's sharp as a razor blade, and it shaves. Trust me, it shaves. However, these knives, they were not made to chop with. Okay, if you start chopping with a knife like this, you'll eventually put nicks on your edge. 100%. These knives were made for slicing and not for chopping. So you know, if anybody's interested in picking up a knife like this and going out in the backwoods and start batoning with it and cutting 1 or 2 inch you know, branches out there, chopping through the forest, you're gonna screw up this knife in a heartbeat. So, because these knives were not made for chopping, they're made for slicing, stabbing, and you understand what I'm saying. You get my drift. Okay. It's not a knife that you see every day out there. However, if you ever come across one, pick it up, try it out. I'm sure that you're going to be impressed. It's a beautiful knife. I can't say more, I mean, or less. So that's about it, guys. Thought I would talk a bit about this knife. Again, I want to thank Richard for his generosity. Really appreciate it, and it's gonna stay with me for a long time. Somebody gives you something from the heart, you don't turn around and give it away or sell it. I mean, that's my philosophy. That's the way I look at things. I'd like to keep this knife and pass it on if I could, and if one day it has to go to somebody, it's going to go to somebody who really needs it. It ain't by no means going to be sold. And basically that's all I got to say for now. So I want to thank you guys for joining me again, and see you guys all in the next vid. So long for now.